Good morning, guys. Good morning. As you can see, I'm again still trying to get my voice back. Like I said, when I get sick, it takes a minute. Again, last night I told you guys, because I had got up at 3:30 yesterday, I wasn't sure what yesterday evening was going to have in store for me, and I fell asleep literally watching the Crumbley trial, the remaining pieces of the Crumbley trial from yesterday. And I unfortunately I had already taken my suit and everything off, but I fell asleep with full beat. Thank you, Juvia's Place, and your oil and your cleansing balm, because baby, you got everything off. And so, again, for you guys who don't know me, my name is Attorney Kiana Franulic. I've been doing criminal law for about 15 years. I practice in Michigan and in Ohio, taking criminal and family law cases and some other matters. And that's the bulk of my practice. I have an office in Oakland County and also practice in Oakland County, which is the county where the Crumbley trial is taking place. I also want to give this disclaimer, and I'm going to say it really quickly, in that I have never worked on the case. I am not personally intimate with any of the evidence or documentation. I am watching just like everyone else. Everything that you guys are getting, I'm getting from watching the trial as well. I have no extra information, ancillary information, nothing of that kind. So I just want to give that disclaimer. Now, yesterday's trial, to me, trial date was like the typical, essentially kind of mundane, like typical trial, going through laying foundation of who was what, who was where, who, the timing, setting the scene visually, etc., etc. And then later on, to me, when we got to the interrogation, well, it wasn't technically an interrogation because they were not under arrest and they were only being spoken to because of their son Ethan. But we got to the interview room where the detective on the case was speaking with James and Jennifer Crumbley about their son, and what kind of kid he is, did they have any idea, or any of these things. And I think, in my opinion, this video to me is really ties together the neglectful aspect of the parties, and this is why. Because during this interview, they did not disclose quite a bit of information that they had known at that time. Specifically, Jennifer Crumbley, like the text messages that she had received from him saying that he was seeing things, that he wasn't well, that he was hearing voices. They didn't disclose any of that information. Also, James Crumbley did not disclose the fact that his son had asked to be taken to the doctor. Didn't disclose any of that information. And these are things that really makes it look worse on their end, because they make it seem as though they were completely clueless as to how this could have occurred. Further, at no time during this discussion did they disclose the fact that they had purchased him a firearm days before this had occurred. And one thing about this, to me, that screams that they had knowledge that they were wrong. They had an idea that they were wrong. And so when the defense did their cross-examination of the detective, she's going through this timeline, and he said this correct, and he said this correct, and he said this correct. And yes, that's a tactic to tie down certain things, but she wasn't getting what she wanted from that pursuit. Like, it wasn't meeting her goal. It wasn't reaching, in my eyes, what she was seeking, because along with that timeline, she was asking speculative questioning, meaning she was essentially asking the detective, and at that time it was clear that he believed, or that, you know, that James Crumbley believed, or that James Crumbley didn't. So she was trying to make these assertions of personal knowledge on the detective that could not be made. He could not testify as to James Crumbley's beliefs. He could only testify as to what was said to him in the video, or what he learned through investigation. Not that it was apparent it was his belief, or it was clear it was his belief. Inappropriate questioning in my view, because at no time could the detective have gotten into James Crumbley's brain and say that he knows what he was thinking. Now, in the law, we do have things called reasonable inferences. Reasonable inferences can be made from direct or circumstantial evidence. And it's not an assumption, but it means that it reasonably follows that this would occur, or it reasonably follows that you would believe this, speaking that the officer would believe this. That it would have been pertinent. To me, if I had been defense counsel, and I'm not judging her critique, this is just my opinion. We all have our own strategy and techniques, etc. But for me, considering how in Jennifer Crumbley's trial, they tried to place everything on Mr. Crumbley, I would have focused my cross-examination on the fact that Jennifer Crumbley stayed on her phone throughout the duration of that interview. She continued to talk over James Crumbley and give her assertion of what she wanted heard when he was asking a question. It was clear that the fact that Jennifer Crumbley withheld that she knew about these text messages about Ethan saying that he was seeing things. He was not well. He needed, that he was feeling some type of way. He wasn't feeling right. That she knew all of these things and did not disclose it. That's where I, as defense counsel, I would have hammered on that. Because what that does is it negates personal knowledge. Even if they are a married couple, it's clear that they had issues by the fact that, we had all of this cheating going on. So I would have hammered on the fact that Jennifer Crumbley had a consistent history of hiding facts from James Crumbley. And I would have gone into the fact that it was clear that she was covering her tracks by staying on her phone and deleting those text messages. It was clear that she was unconcerned about Ethan, but she was concerned about herself by staying on her phone. It was clear that they were not concerned about she was not concerned about the status of her son, because at no time did they ever retain an attorney for Ethan. They retain attorneys for themselves. That is what I, as defense counsel, would have focused on. I would have drawn the attention from the conversation with James Crumbley to the lack of information and the purposeful omissions by Jennifer Crumbley. Even though we know James admitted some key things, I would have drawn a distinction and drawn a line to what Jennifer Crumbley had done, had failed to disclose, and what her actions were at that time. That is my opinion on that day. And to me, that was the biggest opening to me, that she had to make the distinction between the actions of Jennifer and James. So, I have more to say. I'll be back in part 2.